to the entire audience. In order to send a question, in the question pane of the control panel, use the two drop-down menu and select either all, organizers only, or presenter only, or the name of the specific attendee. Then enter a question in the provided field and click send, and the message will appear in the recipient's question pane. And all questions will be saved till the end of the presentation when we'll address them. And now we'd like to tell you a little bit about ourselves. I'm Michelle Strausser. I'm the Director of Training and Professional Development for the Bureau of Human Services Licensing. I've been with the program since 2007, back when it was adult residential licensing. And I started out as a regional licensing administrator for the Central Region adult residential licensing. I was there for about 4 years, and then I transitioned into my position now as the training director, and I've been there ever since. Dale?
And I'm Dale Crow. Most of you know me as the voice of the hotline for about the last 2.5 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I've been with the Bureau of Human Service Licensing for about 4.5 years total. Prior to that, I worked for OMSAS. I've done a variety of other things, but I think that this has been the most enjoyable part of my journey so far. Always a pleasure talking to all of you. Just to reiterate what Michelle was saying about the questions, I've already received a couple of questions that I would characterize as fairly technical types of questions. Today's presentation is on basically how to use our website and how to glean some of the information for yourselves and where some of the things are located. So some technical questions we may have to answer later on by email. So I guess we'll get started as far as talking a little bit about transparency and what that means.
Okay, the reason we chose this topic for this webinar is we often find that in speaking with providers, you're not always aware of the various resources that we have readily available to you relating to licensing. And we want to educate personal care home and assisted living providers about all of the available resources to help you find answers to your questions about various topics like writing a plan of correction, regulatory clarification, any trainings that are coming up in the future, when the next medication training session is, that sort of thing. These are just examples of information that are readily available to you, and we're going to show you where to find the information. And this webinar is designed to inform you of where you can get answers for all of your questions. One of the things we feel it's important for you to know is that we strive to be as transparent as possible and openly share any information that we can. We want all regulatory and policy information to be shared with our staff and the providers alike, so we're all on the same page. And this webinar should help in that respect. Okay, the first source of information that we feel it's important to show you is the Bureau of Human Services Licensing website. The web address is there on the screen, and it's www.DHS.pa.gov/provider/long-term care services. That should get you to the actual Bureau of Human Services Licensing webpage, which is part of the DHS webpage.
And I know that for some of you that this is obvious and you already have been there many times, but on occasion I have gotten questions from people that don't go any further than like the DHS, my DHS homepage, which is the general homepage for the whole Department of Human Services, and they do sometimes have difficulty getting into our DHSL webpage. Okay, examples of things you can find on our webpage include a link
to join or leave our listserv, which is a email service where you can receive emails from us, email blasts. What's new updates, provider directories to find providers in different counties and all over the state. Forms, which include standard forms, required forms, and optional forms. The regulations and the accompanying regulatory compliance guides. Regional office contact information, training information, complaint and operator support hotline numbers, and waiver application. These are just examples of things that you can find on our website. But now we're going to click over to our website. We'll take a look at it. Security concern. Yes. Okay.
You're trying to go here? Right.
Apologize for the delay. We're having a couple difficulties here. Thank you. Okay.
Now you're on our website. Most of you should recognize this. And we're going to try to take you a little bit around the website and show you some of the things over the next period of time here.
Okay. If you scroll down at the top of the page, there's the first paragraph is going to be removed soon because that has to do with a consolidation that is no longer in existence. So that's going to be removed. The next thing we have down is the Contact DHS link where you can send a general inquiry into Department of Human Services. And it goes to an email resource account and is directed to the appropriate individuals to answer the question. That doesn't come directly to us, but it would make it to us eventually within a couple days, I think. And the next paragraph has the link to join the listserv to receive the emails from us. If you scroll down, then we have the What's New updates. The latest What's New update had to do with our webinar for today, to let everyone know about that. And it looks like the previous one before that was back our last Q&As that were put on the website back in May. So those are good to look at, to keep an eye on our website and take a look at what's new, see if there's anything posted there. Next, we have general information that applies to all programs and the Adult Protective Services information. The reason the Adult Protective Services information is on our website is because Adult Protective Services is actually part of our bureau. So we house their information on our website. It can be helpful for you in case you have protective services questions about individuals from the ages of 18 to 59. And on the left-hand side, under the general information, the first link is the directory, which will help you search for providers. The Human Services Provider Directory. This will bring up any type of provider you might be looking for. And you can click here on this drop-down to choose what type of provider you're looking for, to narrow it down. I see here we have personal care homes, and up above we have assisted living, but then we have all the other types listed here as well.
And I'd just like to mention that when you're searching for a provider in this directory, when you're using the actual name of the provider down where they talk about the legal entity name, you have to be extremely specific. If there is an Inc. or Incorporated at the end of the title, you have to put the Inc. in. Oftentimes it will not take you there unless you have it spelled out exactly correctly.
And what I do there is if say it's a long name, Dale Crow Assisted Living, you can just type in, his first name, and then it'll bring up everything that has that combination of letters in it. So that's an easier way to find it without trying to type in the exact name. Okay, and the next link here is just directory help to help you use the directory. The next link, general forms. This has all the forms that are applicable to all of our license programs. The application for licensure, incident reporting form, procedures for self-inspection for increases in capacity, and the waiver request form. Those are listed here. They won't be under the personal care home section because they're applicable to multiple programs. The next link is general miscellaneous information. Slow here. It has a number of things you might be interested in. DHS.pa complaint classification, that might be interesting if you would like to see how we classify our complaints for investigation. If you scroll down, we have a matrix here that shows how we categorize what's a level 1, different stages of level 1, level 2, and how soon we would likely be out to investigate the complaint. So that might be of interest.
One that I just like to point out here is the how to develop a plan of correction. That's really helpful. Sometimes I get questions about that on the hotline, and often most of you know that it's my policy to refer you back to the regional office that represents you when you are in the midst of an inspection process where maybe you have a violation report and you're trying to do your plan of correction, because the specific technical assistance about plans of correction should really come from the inspectors that actually did it. But this 6 easy steps can give you a lot of good tips on how to write a good plan of correction if you do have one.
And that's under the general information section here, since it's applicable to all of our license programs. And then there's some information about influenza outbreaks, the provider survey links. When we do an inspection, an annual inspection, or process an application for a new license, we ask that you complete a survey to let us know how we did, and the links are here under the general information section. And general policy, regulations, and interpretation information includes our electronic records policy, licensing reference manual, regulatory issues, or regulatory Q&A policy. The licensing reference manual has information that's applicable to all programs, but it lets you know how we view a number of things. And I'm just going to go to the table of contents here so I can show you what's in it. It's information about contacting BHSL and our reportable incident process for human services providers, requesting a regulatory waiver, and the licensing inspection cycle. That information is helpful if you'd like to know, more information about applying for a waiver, or, how do we do our inspection cycle? What happens first, and what's expected? Scroll down to that. This shows the phases of the licensing inspection cycle. application and license issuance, scheduling, and how we do all of that, and what you can expect for the on-site inspection, and what we're going to be doing while we're on site. And the plan of correction phase. So that could be helpful. Here's more information about developing a plan of correction as well. So I just wanted to point that out. And then under regulations, we have the information that's applicable to all of the license programs, including Chapter 20, which is the basis for our regulations, and the Human Services Licensing Law, mandatory abuse and reporting information, and all the older adult protective services information. And also we have the general training information. This is where you're going to find information about our, the medication administration training program, because it applies to multiple programs. So that we have general information in here, and the latest announcements that they've put out from the Office of Developmental Programs about the training, with the latest classroom sessions that were taking place, and any updates to the program. Looks like last one we have is from a year ago. This webinar link right now, the webinars that are linked here, we no longer have, but I just wanted to point that out because we will be putting webinars or linking webinars there in the future in case you miss them.
The one here that's really important, well, anything to do with the medication administration training is I hear questions about that all the time, and some of the questions can be answered right here. I know that this isn't always completely up to date, and we're more than happy to and willing to help you find more updated trainings. But just to give you a background here on where some of this can be found on your own.
Okay. And if you scroll down a little further, there's the operator support hotline number, which is the direct hotline to Dale Crowe to ask questions.
And you know that's me.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And a little further down, we have the personal care homes information that's specific to just personal care homes, and then the assisted living information. Okay. Now, see, the first link here is a provider directory where it just includes the personal care home providers, so you don't have to narrow it down. But you can search by region, county, zip code, and the legal entity name. And that's where I was saying you could just type in a portion of the name, and you should be able to come up with, I mean, the one you're looking for will be listed, but it might list some other ones as well, but at least you'd be able to find it. I don't know, let's do an example. Let's see, Colonial, there's got to be something with Colonial in the name. Yeah, it comes up with a number of homes, and then you would just pick the one that you're looking for.
So as you can see, that brought up quite a lot of homes that have Colonial in the name.
And I know there's another trick to it. If there's an apostrophe, this system doesn't recognize apostrophes, so you would just leave that part out. I can't think of an example of one with, I know there are some, but you can't use an apostrophe in the search field. Okay, and the next one down is the personal care homes forms. These are forms that are applicable to just the personal care homes. We have a list of required forms. They're available here. And sample model forms.
Just a comment here is that I periodically get questions because many of these forms are in PDF version in these categories. However, some of the forms we do have in Word, and you can request those from me, and I'll provide them to you, send them to you, if they're forms that you want to write into the form.
You scroll down here, there's a number of forms that are helpful that are listed here. This one was helpful. The supervised fire drill and fire safety inspection model form simplifies the process quite a bit. And our resident rights poster, everything that you need there. Okay, and under miscellaneous information, number of things you might be looking for: administrative fines information, blood glucose testing and insulin administration equipment and supplies letter, certificate of occupancy, statement of policy letter. There's some FAQs, infection control, information from OSHA, our annual report. Here's our monthly statistical report. This is updated monthly and has information about the number of homes in the different counties across the state and statistics from the homes. So that is readily available if you just look at our website if you ever need that. Information about personal needs allowance, regional realignment letter that tells you which counties or which regions. The last letter we sent out about it. Just general information.
We want to go to the regional office.
Yeah, we'll do that one. Okay.
Sometimes
here we have the hospice fire drill statement of policy, our fines policy, information about the Influenza Awareness Act, the poster here, which was provided to us by our friends at the Department of Health, should be hung up in every facility because it includes all of the information that's required to be posted by law. Taking a while to load. Here it is. So this is available on our website. You can just print it out and hang it up. And there's some more information in the toolkit. And here's a link to our regulations for personal care homes, 2600. And here's our regulatory compliance guide, which we'll talk more about later on. Oh, we have a slide on it. We'll do it. And then here's our Q&As, which we'll talk more about later, but we list all of our Q&As on the website and make them available to everyone. So you know any questions that have been asked and answered officially that apply to multiple homes, we list them here so you can always find them, and then they're searchable by regulation. Okay, under the regional offices link, this is where you can find information about who to contact in the different regional offices and which counties they are represented by the region. And here's the state map with the breakout of the regional offices: Southeast, Central, West, and Northeast. And this shows where the regional offices are: Scranton, Norristown, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. And under training information, we have any training that, well, we'll start at the beginning. The 100-hour course providers. This is where you can find out who's providing the course and how to get a hold of them to find out when the next course is and schedule yourself. Here's the training directory where we list the training that's been approved, the orientation schedule for the year, the administrator scholarship for personal care homes, for homes that serve at least one individual who receives SSI. They can fill out a scholarship to send someone to the 100-hour course free of charge or being reimbursed for it. Here we list the training from Northampton Community College. Right now, the schedule is still listed for last spring, but we will have the fall schedule up here shortly, and as well as the other trainings listed below that Temple University Institute on Protective Services provides for us. These are the last trainings we had, which already took place, but we are going to have the new ones up shortly.
I encourage everybody to check these out as soon as they become available. Oftentimes, I get some somewhat frantic calls when people realize they're coming to the end of their 24 CEU year and are looking for trainings. I encourage everybody to schedule these trainings. They're very good, both the Temple and the Northampton trainings. We try to have them offered different places in the state that makes it a little bit more convenient for people to get to, and you can oftentimes get anywhere from 4 to 6 CEUs at one training.
Right, all of the Temple trainings are 6 hours, and the Northampton trainings are 3 hours each, but they have 2 in each day, so you can get the 6 hours. And Northampton also has the diabetes education training that you can attend free of charge. And that is will also be listed in the flyer that will be posted. I'll just pull this up, even though it's the spring one. Well, I thought I would. Taking its time. Okay.
Sometimes we get a little stuck with our technology.
I'm sure we're not the only ones. Okay. This has the information, the training split out by region. Okay. And registration is required for these trainings with Northampton and Temple. And if you register and then determine you can't go, then we just ask that you cancel your registration. But they are free of charge. Here's a list of the training, well, the actual training schedule for last spring.
We often try to limit 2 people from each facility going because we really find that many of the trainings get booked full. And if they have 100 slots, they're giving out 100 slots for the training. So it is important if you can. We realize that your schedules are extremely hectic and sometimes unpredictable, but if you can at least have one of your 2 going to the training, that's really important.
Okay, and as you can see here, we have the diabetes classes listed as well. We're going to try to have them all around the state. They're 3-hour courses as well, and they cover the required training that you need in order to administer an insulin.
That's oftentimes a good question that people raise about how to get the diabetes training. So there's one possibility.
Okay. Oh, and just to mention down here, we have the link to the Medication Administration Train the Trainer Program Scholarship. If a home serves residents who receive SSI, and at least 25% of the residents living at the home at the time receive SSI, they can fill out this scholarship application to send someone to the Train the Trainer program free of charge. This just is not for recertification. This is just for initial training. Because the recertification is a much lower fee. It's not really necessary for that. And we allow this once every 3 years for a home. And down here, you know, we ask that you list the number of residents who receive SSI. That's a bit of a cost savings. And over here on the right-hand side, we have the same thing for assisted living. And I wanted to mention that any training that's approved for personal care home administrators is also approved for assisted living administrators. We don't have a whole separate system for assisted living at this time since there are so few assisted living facilities right now. And I'm talking about the training that is for the annual 24 hours. So here we have the directory, the forms, pretty much the same miscellaneous information. Let's see what's there. Just the recent change that we had to the regional assignments for assisted living. They're now being handled out of the regions as far as the licensure, instead of all of them being licensed by the central region. We have the regulations, the Q&As, the regional office breakouts, and the training information in here as well. Here we have a link to the 15-hour course providers. Right now, those are pretty limited. There hasn't been enough demand for this training, and many of the training providers are temporarily taking a break from that training since they aren't getting enough enrollees. So that is often difficult to schedule, which, you know, if you have a problem and you need someone to have that training, please contact me if you're having difficulty scheduling that. And here we have the assisted living administrator orientation schedule. That's somewhat limited as well, since there hasn't been much of a demand. Looks like the next one we have coming up is November 6th in Harrisburg. Go back. All right, and then if you scroll down a little further on our web page, there's the Bureau of Human Services Licensing Complaint Hotline. And then we have information that pertains to other types of licensed facilities, which we no longer work with, but we are going to probably have that information remain on the website so everyone can still find it. All right. Go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about are the Q&As. I'll turn it over to Dale.
Oftentimes, if there isn't a direct link that answers the question that you're looking for, and it has some sort of it's a regulatory interpretation. Another place we went past this to look for regulatory interpretations are the Q&As. And the question and answers are located on the section that we went over that has to do with personal care home information. And if you go down to the fourth bulleted link that says policy, regulations, and interpretation information, click that open and go down to interpretations, question and answers. You'll find the Q&As. We saw that briefly before, and we have Q&As on there from September 2014 up through April of this year. And one quick kind of trick that you can use if you're looking for, when you see all of the Q&As and you think, oh, gee, I don't want to read all those, just simply look for the regulation that is in question. Like, for example, if you're talking about medication administration, and that regulation is in the high 180s to 190 regulations, then you can just simply look for any Q&As that have to do with the 190 series or the high 180s, and that will take you to, you can click on those, excuse me, to take you to where there may be a Q&A that answers your interpretive question.
Okay, the Q&As will eventually be incorporated into the RCG next time it's updated. We will add the information of any of the Q&As into there, so it's like built into the discussion information about each regulation.
And any questions that are of general interest and applicable to many homes, we'll have answers that we'll post in the Q&As in the future.
Okay, and now we can go back over to the website to show you the Q&As. We'll look at the assisted living Q&As. Let's see, they're going to be here, and the personal care homes are going to be here under policy, regulations, and interpretation information. So let's look at the assisted living Q&As. You scroll down. There's all the Q&As that we've had.
And there they are.
So say you have a question about a certain regulation, whether there have been any Q&As relating to that regulation, you can look here and see if the regulation is listed. If you're not sure about the regulation, it's pretty simple to go into the regs on the website and do a search to maybe search the keywords in the regulation or that you're looking for, and then it'll come up with the numbers.
And I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
All right, so we talked about the regulatory compliance guide, which what I like to describe it as an annotated set of regulations, which means that basically it takes the regulation, it gives you our interpretation of the regulation, and gives you some discussion and how are the ways that we're trying to look at it and measure it as we come out and do an inspection. And that's really helpful because it's not just telling you this is the regulation, but this is what it looks like. And this is this can be used by you folks, by everyone, and our inspectors included. The actual RCG, when we go to our home page, okay, when you look on the right side of the home page.
Well, it's in here, but there's another place that you're going to show.
Yeah, well, I was just going to show them on the, oh, no, I don't see it there. Okay.
That bar's not coming up.
All right, we'll go down.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there you just saw it under.
Going kind of fast here. Sorry about that.
Right here under interpretations, the personal care RCG. And if you open this, one way to do a quick search, some of you have heard me talking about this when I'm on the phone with you, is to hit Control F, and you will get a little box up in the right-hand corner that you can type in keywords that have to do with the regulation that you're searching out. If you make it too specific, it may not come up with anything. But if, let's just say it had something to do with medications, then I would probably start with just medications. That may give you a whole lot of regulations, because there are many, of course. But in the case that we gave earlier, you could type in medication administration, and you would get something on that. Or like, for example, typing in diabetes. If you type in diabetes, you'll get the, it'll take you to where the diabetes training is referenced, and things like that. That's one way that you can do a very quick search, even if you're not familiar with exactly what regulation number you're looking for. If you want to do this, okay, so here we've gone to our annual trainings, and you can see that one of the bullet points here that's highlighted talks about training hours spent in the diabetes education required, which is under 190B, and you get, one of the questions is, do you get CPUs or CEUs, and you do get 4 hours here for CPR, and the diabetes training, well, I'm not sure exactly how many hours.
Training hours, however long they're in there. In the
Okay.
training. Yeah.
So that's just one way that you can use the Control F function to get more quickly to some of your questions in the RCG manual.
You want to show them the different aspects of the RCG? How...
Well, yeah, I mentioned earlier that of course, the regulation is at the very top, which in this case we're looking at 64C, and then we go into the discussion, which in this case, because we're talking about a training, is quite lengthy, and they even define the training year, what that means. And then we look at our inspection procedures, where my cursor went, there we go. How we're going to look at this as we come out and do our inspection. And so here we're talking about training records for the most recent 12-month training year. Okay? And of course we give a benefit for that, as far as what is the benefit of this particular kind of regulation. Question that comes up often has to do with direct care staff training and orientation, and here of course that starts at 65A, and we highlight the regulation, and then what the discussion means as far as how we're looking at this, and what our inspection procedures will be.
Okay.
So that's a little bit about the RCG manual.
We do update the RCG. It hasn't been updated in a little while, but I think that's probably coming up here pretty soon. We have some Q&As we need to add to it, and just to get it updated so all the Q&As are actually in it, and you can get all the information in one place. Makes it easier. All right. Another helpful source of information is our listserv. Many of you may already be on the listserv, where you receive emails, mostly from me, some from Bob Robinson, where we send email blasts out just to let you know about specific things that might have to do with training or our policy, or different things that could have changed. But it's important to be on there so you'll be aware of different things that happen. Whenever we send out something out on the listserv, we also post it to our website. So if it's something that's pertinent, we will put a what's new on the website. So if you don't receive the email, you can at least look at the website and hopefully be made aware of the change there in the what's new section. But you have to actually join the listserv to receive the emails. And informational emails are sent out regarding various topics. There's separate lists for personal care, home, and assisted living. However, a lot of the same information is sent out on both lists at the same time. And if you no longer wish to receive the emails on the listserv, you have the capability of going in and removing yourself from the listserv, and we would ask you to do that. Or, if you send me an email, I'm happy to do that for you. And the link to join the personal care home listserv is on the BHSL webpage. I showed you that right at the very beginning. It's the third paragraph down. It's right there, the little link that says listserv. If you want to join the personal care home listserv, you can do that there. If you want to join the assisted living residence listserv, here's the link to go there. And you just follow the instructions. I guess I can go there now and see. If you scroll down to keeping in touch with the department, it's right here under assisted living. I don't know why the bullet is under child care provider certification. I hope that doesn't cause anybody any confusion, but it's right here under assisted living. And if you click there, you can go through and follow the instructions to join that. All right.
And now we come to the operator support hotline. Yours truly again. And that picture is me. If I could answer 4 or 5 phones sometimes at one time, I would try it, but I'm not really good at multitasking. I will just emphasize that we have a couple of here pointers. It is 8 to 4:30. Not for emergencies. And what I mean by that is there's a couple of types of calls that I direct routinely to the regional office, and that is where it has to do with violation reports and plans of correction. Those should go directly to the inspection teams that have been, or their supervisors, that have been out to see you and talk to you. I try to answer questions within 48 hours or 2 business days. I tell you, I try. There are many times that I'm taken away from the hotline, and I'm not trying to beg forgiveness. But it varies in terms of the amount, the volume of calls, the types of calls that come in, how many I can answer, how quickly. So if it is an emergent call, I would say call the region. If it is a call that is time sensitive, I would call the region if you can't get hold of me. Another case in point where people frequently call is when they want to report that they are going to be off on vacation or medical leave for a period of time and are concerned about having our staff come out and do an inspection during that period of time. We have said that we will try to work with you on that, but sometimes when I get a call that says tomorrow my vacation starts, please don't have them come out and do the inspection. What I try to tell and explain to everyone is that our licensing staff who actually do the what we call the workload managers, who actually schedule the inspections need at least 2 weeks because they're scheduling half to a whole month ahead. So the longer that you can give notice, the better. Sometimes, obviously, if it's an emergency, it's not always, you're not always able to do that. But if you know that you're going to take your vacation in Hawaii in 3 months, and please call in because I'd love to go with you, and that'll give us plenty of time to schedule off. Just a couple of other things about the hotline. The more information you can give me ahead of time, either by email or by your phone call, the better, because that way I can research your question. Sometimes people just call and give their name and number, and that's fine. But if you can give me a little more detail, that helps me to be able to research the question ahead of time. And again, we try to, the one thing that I periodically have to reinforce is that a call does not result in a surprise inspection. Even if you tell me something that would be, quote, bad news, unquote, that doesn't mean that I'm going to say, get out there and do an inspection, do an investigation of this place right away. Be candid about whatever it is that's on your mind. And again, just to emphasize, not to be confused with the complaint hotline, because if it is a complaint about a provider, that goes to the 877 number. And that is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Sometimes people have said that they've tried to call the hotline and could not get through. That's only because one of our inspectors who was answering the call at that time was on a call, typically just leaving a message, and they'll get back to you also as quickly as they can. Oh, and also you can call our headquarters, or not call, but email our headquarters. You can also call our headquarters, but you can email the headquarters at RA-PWARL headquarters. That's run together as one word at state.pa.gov. And that email address will also answer. I get those emails, as do others, and we will answer your questions that way too.
Right, so you have the choice of either calling in on the hotline at the 866 number to get Dale, or emailing instead. And I'll just repeat that. I forgot to put it in the PowerPoint. I apologize, but it is on our website. It's RA-PWARL headquarters, all one word, at state.pa.gov.
Again, just a couple of quick points here. For questions about your inspection or POC, call the lead person. Please, when you have your exit interview, ask for if they don't give you, they should give you their business card immediately, but ask for their business card or phone number. Call for the lead person who did your inspection, their supervisor, or the regional director. Some other people that you can contact for a specific kind of question. Obviously, you can always call our director, but oftentimes Jackie will answer all calls or emails. However, many times we can answer many of your questions. Jill Kachmar is our regulatory licensing manager. She handles waivers. She handles new home or change change, sale of legal entity type questions, and questions that have to do with additions or increases in capacity, like for a SDU, secure dementia unit. So questions regarding those areas can go directly to Jill. Michelle Strausser will talk to you about any areas that have to do with professional development, meaning if you're developing a training or the medication train-the-trainer program or administrator qualifications and certification questions.
Okay. Now it's time for any questions that you may have, and I do have some here to answer. Now this webinar had to do with how to find answers. I do have some questions here that are very specific about different things. The first one I have is, do the diabetes classes actually show staff how to administer insulin? And the answer is yes, they do have to practice on an orange, I believe. There is hands-on practice, I believe, on an orange, but it definitely shows them how to administer insulin. Next question is, has the resident right poster have been updated to include that a resident has the right to refuse medication? The last update on the website was 2015. And the answer to that question is no. The residents' rights listed on the poster are the actual residents' rights in the regulations under Regulation 2600.42. The right to refuse medication isn't actually one of those residents' rights. That's what the poster is meant for, and those are the ones that have to be posted. The right to refuse medications is really not one of the residents' rights per se, as far as the 2600.42 goes. So I don't believe there's any plan to add that regulation to the residents' rights poster. We just got a question that says, can you repeat that? But I don't know what that is referring to. So if you want to put your question in again about what you want us to repeat, that would be helpful. Okay, where are the policies and procedures of the licensing reps for providers? For example, if an inspection goes more than 1 day, where does it say that the licensing reps have 14 days to finish the inspection? That is, I am not sure if that is listed in a policy somewhere. It may very well be, but I'm not sure about that one. So we're going to have to answer that one separately after we go back to the office. And I do have the inquirer's email address, so we can answer that one separately. Okay, next question is, why isn't there any funding for this housing model? Personal care homes have over 200 in some odd regulations. To comply with it is extremely difficult to meet the requirement and provide to the needy target population. And that is also a very good question, but I do not have an answer to that right now in this forum, but we may be able to have the right people talk to you separately about that, because we definitely don't know the answer to that. At this time, I'm sure there is really no answer to that, that we can give right now. So we'll have to move on to the next question. Does the NHA biannual CEU requirements meet the requirements for an NHA grandfathered as a PCH administrator, or do they have to meet the 24 hours also? Yeah, the training you receive as an NHA, as long as it's approved by NAB and it relates to the operation of a personal care home in some way, we would count towards personal care home administrator 24 hours. We don't like to count things that have nothing to do with a personal care home, like information about CMS requirements and different nursing home related things that are not related to a personal care home. But you don't have to go out and get a separate 24 hours of training in addition to the hours that are required for the NHA. Some of it's going to be able to count towards both. As long as it's NAB approved and it relates to, operating a personal care home, dealing with seniors, other aspects of individuals in a personal care home. But if you need any more information about that, please feel free to email me. My email address is not in PowerPoint. I was just checking. It's M as in Michelle, Strausser, Strausser @pa.gov. I'll be happy to answer that further if you need more information. And the next question is, can we request to have extra regulation books sent to our facility? And the answer to that is yes, and we'll be happy to send them out to you. I have the inquirer's name, but I'm not sure what facility the person is from. So if you want to just email Dale at dcrow, Krow, @pa.gov, he'll be happy to send you some regs books.
Yeah, I'll be glad to do that. You can, like we said before, you can always find the RCG and the regs on our website, but I'm more than happy to send you out some of the pink books. I've gotten a few questions where people are asking, would they be able to get the PowerPoint afterwards? And that is in the handout section. So you can get a copy of the PowerPoint from there.
The handout section in the webinar, the go-to webinar? Okay.
Yeah.
If you have any trouble accessing that, just let us know and we'll email you a copy. I figured we would also put it on our website. So, okay. Okay, someone has a specific question. We were cited once for not including the regulation on the residents' rights poster. I don't think that's, now I'm not going to say whether I think that's a correct violation or not, because I could probably, I don't know if maybe I'm not up to date on that, but I think we're talking about the right to refuse medication. That's something that maybe we should get more clarification on and then respond directly to the person who asked here. If we don't have it on the poster that we give to you, it seems that it shouldn't be on the poster, but if somebody's going to be cited for that as a violation, I think what you would want to do is take that to a higher level if you don't agree with a violation. That sounds like one that I would question, and I could be wrong. I'm going to have to say I could be wrong, but I would question that violation and take it to the supervisor, and if I don't agree with what the supervisor says, I would take it up the chain of command and take it to the regional director of the region, and just say, hey, I really, if you're not providing it on the poster, I don't understand why we have to post that in our facility, and it isn't technically one of the residents' rights under regulation 2600.42. And I would definitely, if I didn't agree with the licensing rep on a violation, I would definitely take it to a higher level.
And we will check that out and try to get some clarity on that. I wouldn't take that as meaning that that you can force medications, because that's pretty common in almost every facility where medications are given, that it is commonly known that medications cannot be forced, even in licensed psychiatric facilities. So we'll check that out and get something out to you on that.
Okay, the next question is where can I send questions to instead of calling the hotline? I'm going to repeat that email address in case you didn't all catch it. It's RA-PWARL headquarters @state.pa.us. Okay, and could you repeat how to subscribe to the personal care home listserv? Well, let's go in there. Okay. On the DHSL web page, if you go to the top, right here, third paragraph down is a link to join the listserv. If you click on that, you can go here to the second bullet, join or leave the list. And this is the personal care home listserv right here. So you can click on that and you follow the instructions. You put your name and email address in and just click on subscribe, and it should join you, or put your email in the listserv. If you have any problems with that, please let me know. I deal with that every day, and I should be able to help you. No problem. Okay. I have another person who said they were cited for the right to refuse not being on the residence rights poster, so we will definitely look into that situation. Okay. You want to go ahead and read that one?
Question is also, do we know if other communities using pastimes for medication, such as 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. for morning doses, would a community get cited for not using an hour before or an hour after?
That's a question I think we should ask, or we should answer separately.
We'll get back to you on that one. Are there going to be credit hours for this webinar?
Yes, you can count it. The amount of time you're on this webinar can add to your training log that you attended this training and put all, the required information in the log. We aren't issuing certificates for this training, but not all training is required to have a certificate that you have on your list. But you would just want to list that on your training log, and you can count it towards your 24 hours for personal care home or assisted living administrators.
Yeah, if you're on the entire time, it'll be 1.5. And we will have a log of everyone that attended, so that'll be our way of checking whether someone was on the webinar and took credit for it. How long will the train-the-trainer site be going on?
I don't understand the question. Do you know how long the train-the-trainer site is going to be done for? I don't know. We would need more clarification. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you want to type in your question, a little more detail. And how is it determined which inspectors come to do annual inspections? Typically, it is the same inspectors. Wondering if that might ever change. I think that's a question for our operations director. I know they don't like to send the same person out over and over, but I think there probably is a plan for how they do that. I'm not completely familiar with that, so we would have to get back to you on that one. The email for reportable incidents. Oh, that would be the resource account. What is the email address for reporting incident reports? For some reason, the email always gets kicked back. And I often hear that the emails get kicked back from there often because the dash isn't included, but I don't know if that's what the problem is here. But it would be the RA-PWARL headquarters at state.pa.gov that you would want to use for that. Okay. I have another one that says a lot of people have the questions about the right to refuse medication. Maybe we can include it in the next Q&A. So that might happen, depending on where we take it or what level it gets to. If a lot of people have questions about that, I would agree that maybe it would make a good Q&A. When we receive our PCH license, this is discussed and we are told it's current and valid, right? And we will receive a deficiency if it's not posted. I'm not sure if I understand that. Can we please repeat the hotline number? It's 1-866-503-3926. When will there be an assisted living residence rights poster? That one I will have to take back as well. Can we email incident reports? Yes. It goes to the resource account that I just spoke of a minute ago.
You can also send your reportables directly to your regional office.
Right. Yeah.
Either to their email account, which is posted on, remember where we went to the regional office material on our website, or you can call them or fax them.
Right. Yes, the incident reports, I'm sorry, they should go to the regional office, but if they come to the headquarters resource account, we'll just forward it to them. Oh, yeah, I did find out yesterday that they were having technical difficulties at Temple University with the medication train the trainer site. Last update I had was yesterday afternoon that they were working on it, and I don't know what the problem is specifically, but I'm hoping it won't be down long. That's the first time I'm aware of they've had a problem to this magnitude. But you know, I can check on that when I get back to the office and see how they're doing with that.
For the person that was asking about the reportables, it's our main account, and I'll repeat that again, email account, which is RA-PWARLHEADQUARTERS. PWARL headquarters at state.pa.gov, or you can call the regional office, your regional office. You can use their fax number and fax your regional office, or you can email your regional office.
I'm going to go back to the website and show where you can find the regional office contact information. Getting there. Okay. Here we have the regional office information for personal care homes and assisted living.
So you go to the personal care information and then hit regional offices, and then you'll have each region specified with their email, their fax, and their toll-free number.
And their email resource account here is similar to ours, but they have one, there's one for each region.
Yeah, just where ours says headquarters, theirs will give west, northeast, southeast, and central.
Okay. And I'm going to go back. I believe our resource account is on the main page. Or am I wrong about that? It's not on there. Oh, I know where, yeah. It's back where I just was. Okay. even though it says regional offices on that link I just clicked on, here's our contact information for the headquarters. And this is the one that will go directly to Dale if you send in a question. It's RA-PWARL headquarters at PA.gov. So you can always find that there under the contact information. Can you reach the appropriate agency to conduct a webinar regarding HUD funding, specifically 24 CFR 700, entitled Congregate Housing Services Program? That one's pretty far over my head, I have to say. I'm going to have to take that one back for, assistance.
Yeah. I think those are funding areas that are outside of our bureau. If you're talking about HUD funding, I would call your local or county housing authority. That's more than likely where you'll find specifics on that. Sometimes, like for example, in Dauphin County, where we are located in Harrisburg, there is both a Dauphin County housing authority and there's also a Harrisburg housing authority. In larger urban areas, you'll find them representing the specific city, whether it's Pittsburgh or Harrisburg in this case or wherever, but many times it's the county, and they'll be able to tell you and help you out with that.
Okay, and I have another question here where someone is suggesting that we start scheduling inspections with personal care homes, and I will just take that one back. That's something that's not under my purview. Okay. Must an administrator be certified in CPR? Well, that's one, that would be a typical hotline question, I think, but, it really all depends on if the administrator is being counted as, since there has to be, I don't have the reg in front of me, one person for every
50 residents.
Yeah.
And so it would depend on the size of the home, how many staff the administrator had that might already be CPR trained. It's possible in very large homes. No, the administrator wouldn't necessarily have to be trained if they had the adequate enough other staff that were trained. But if you're talking about a smaller operation where the administrator may actually be doing a lot of direct care work themselves, then yes, they may have to be. And remembering that to meet that 1 to 50 ratio, well, if you have a home with 10 people in it and one administrator and you only have 2 or 3 staff that might be on a shift, and the one other person that was CPR trained leaves, then yes, then the administrator may be the next person up. So it's kind of hard to answer that question in a straight yes or no. It all depends on the ratios and the numbers of people that you have that are CPR trained.
And however, the CPR and first aid is part of the 100-hour course, so the administrator would take that as part of the 100-hour course, but then we wouldn't necessarily have to make sure they kept it up to date after that, and if they had enough staff to meet the ratio in the future at the home. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another question. Someone's trying to find the assisted living residence rights poster on the DHS website. So let's take a look and see if we have it out there. It should be maybe under the forms if it is there. Under the form. Try the miscellaneous. No, we already looked there. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's out there, so that's a good question. Maybe we have to find out where that is. Okay, someone is asking about the resident's rights again. If the phrase the resident has the right to refuse medications is added to the bottom of the resident's rights poster, do you think this would be sufficient? And where does this phrase occur in the RCG? Okay, let's go to the RCG. And I've seen where people have added that before, so it would definitely cover that if it's required. Okay, we'll do a Control F. Right to refuse. We'll say refuse. Oh, come on. Why is that not there? Am I doing something wrong? There it is. That's not it. Oh, there's a lot of receipts. Oh, here it is. Okay. Well, that's not the actual reg about the right to refuse. Okay. The home shall educate the resident of the right to question or refuse a medication. See, it's not actually listed as a resident right, even though it's implying that they have that right. So this is where it is in the RCG under 191. It doesn't say anything in the discussion about how that has to be added to the poster, but it's something that they have to be educated on, that they have the right to question or refuse a medication if they believe it may be an error. And then we have to document that you educated the resident on that. Does an RN taking the administrator course have to have first aid certification? And the answer to that is yes, because it's required by the regulations. It's a 100-hour course, which is 100 hours. It's required for everyone to receive the CPR and first aid portion unless they already have a card that shows that they have had it recently and it's still current. I have another question. Why is there no central regional office in Philadelphia County?
Now, the Southeast Regional Office is in the old Norristown State Hospital, and they service the Philadelphia County and the 4 surrounding counties, Bucks, Delaware, Montgomery, and Chester, in addition to Philadelphia.
We have a headquarters office, and we have 4 regional offices. The central regional office is called Central because it's in the central part of the state, if that's what you mean. And the headquarters office is in Harrisburg, since we cover the whole state. So then we have the closest one to Philadelphia is in Norristown. I don't know why specifically it's in Norristown, but that's where it's been for a long time. So. Okay. Can someone use their NHA license to cover personal care until a new person is hired? And the answer to that is yes, but according to the regulations, there are certain things that the person has to complete before they can do that. They do have to have a current NHA license in Pennsylvania and attend a personal care home administrator orientation, which is a 1-day session, and we have the list of those orientations on our website under the training information. And they also would need to take the personal care home administrator competency test. There's no need to take the 100-hour course. And in order to find one of the providers who administers the course, you would look on our website under the 100-hour course provider section. We'll go show you where that is. And it's under the personal care homes training information. I'm assuming we're talking about a personal care home.
You can.
That would be here.
You can contact one of the colleges that in your area that teaches the 100-hour course and explain to them that you are an NHA licensed person. I think there is a fee for taking the exam, but it's probably not too much. And
it's usually about $100 from what I understand.
Yeah. Now the one thing that I have heard from some of the training providers is that they will only allow people to sit for the test during the time that they are actually teaching the course. So it may not be that they frequently operate on a college semester year, and so they, for example, now they may not be even open to take the exam. They may only open that in, say, September. But you can always contact them to see if you can sit for it.
It depends on the college. Some of them will let you come in and take it. Other ones want you to take it along with all their other trainees who already just took the course and they're taking the test.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's all of our questions. If we didn't answer something sufficiently, or you want to follow up on one of the ones we didn't answer, just email us. We're happy to pass your question on to the right person if we don't have the information, or to give more clarification on the question if it's something that we're familiar with.
Yeah, we've loved doing this with all of you folks, and if you want to do more of this, let us know. We will definitely answer all of your questions, but some of them were very specific to your facility or a specific issue that probably requires us either talking a little further on the phone or emailing the answer to you.
We are planning to do more webinars coming up in the future. We don't have them scheduled yet, but we will be doing them. So please, if you're not on the listserv, go ahead and join the listserv so you'll receive my announcements, and keep an eye on our website for any information about any upcoming trainings. And please also, if you have any areas that you need clarification on or ideas for training in the future that you think would be beneficial to your co-providers out there, please let me know. I'm happy to take any suggestions from you because you're the ones who know what you need training on. So just feel free to email me at any time about that. And it's mstrausser@pa.gov. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. This will conclude the webinar.